Welcome back to Human Edge podcast, where we explore what it really takes to build a career, a business, a life that is both high performing and deeply human. Today's conversation is for every consultant, coach, and expert who knows that they are good at what they do, but feels that tension between doing great work and actually being seen, valued, and paid for the true scope of their expert. My guest is Jane Anderson. She's a growth strategist and a consulting coach who sits at the intersection of personal brand, positioning, thought leadership, and commercial growth from B2B consultant and thought leaders. She's worked with 10,000s of leaders and consultants across the globe. She's an award-winning speaker and author of multiple books on influence, positioning, and building an exceptional consulting practice. What I really love about Jane is that she's not just talking about visibility or personal branding in a very superficial way. She's in the trenches, helping consultants design the practices that are sustainable, profitable, and aligned with the life that they actually really want to live. So in this episode, we'll just be unpacking some of the things that she does, how you can be, how you strong consultants still feel very invisible in the market, and some of the work that she's doing. So whether you're starting out or you're building a multi 6 or 7 figure practice, this conversation is going to challenge how you think about your value, your business model, and the way you actually really show up in the market. So Jen, welcome to Human Edge podcast. I'd really love to start with your story. Thank you for according us your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I'm excited. So if we can just really start in, you really describe your work as sitting at the intersection of personal brand, positioning, thought leadership, and commercial growth from B2B consultants and thought leader. When did you realize that this intersection, not just branding or marketing, was the real leverage point for consultants?
I started my practice in 2010, so I've had it for 16 years. And at the time, I'd come out of corporate. I was in learning and development, people capability, looking after big company, like training, looking after training for 10,000 staff in organizations. So I always knew I wanted to go out on my own. And I started to do that. It started in the career counseling space. So as a career practitioner, when I left my corporate job from people capability, and then I just started to realize that I was, writing about what people seem to have challenges with. I was writing about looking at doing SEO and going, okay, well, people seem to have these types of questions and the things they're looking for help with. But I felt like there was some things that I was trying to say that people weren't asking about. And I was going, this is a bit weird. Like if I'm going to share and talk about some of these things, these are the real issues. This is what's really going on, but they're not really asking for that. So so that was one realization. The other realization was that I was hitting a ceiling in my practice when I was growing. So I hit I just felt like I hit a point where I couldn't charge anymore. I didn't have any more hours physically in the day. And I was going, okay, I don't know, do I build a bigger business? But what if I just want to be me? What if I don't, is that really the only option? I thought there has to be a different way. And, how can you be an expert in your space, still be able to work for yourself, but not feel like you've just bought yourself a job either, and doing it and slaving away. So I started to ask questions and I went out and spoke to a lot of people. How do other people do this? And then someone shared with me around this whole methodology around building a thought leadership practice. And the gentleman who built that work is a gentleman called Matt Church. He's based here in Australia. He's based in Sydney. And so I met Matt. I ended up working with him for almost 10 years. So I was on faculty working with him, and he really helped me to see that. He said, the work that you really do is around personal brand. And I was doing career management work, but what happened is we had a shift where I started to have people asking me how I was getting all work with all these companies like Rio Tinto and Virgin and Lego. And so I was spending time helping my friends going, oh, well, you just need to do this and write this book and do this, and they were trying to work out how do you price things. So I was helping my friends out while I was trying to deliver my stuff. And after a while, I realized all my friends were consultants and thought leaders, advisors, and I was like, oh, you actually need help. Okay. So I was like, oh, okay. Do you want me to help you? So then before I knew it, so I'm really fortunate that, most of my clients, I call them my friends because I would hang out with them even if they weren't paying me. I love my clients. So I was like, actually, I can't do all of this. So I think, who do I love more? The corporate clients or my friends? And I was like, oh, it took me a while to decide. And in the end, I chose my friends. And so I still do a little bit of corporate work and speak at conferences and events, but I don't do the big programs for them anymore. I really just focus on helping people do the work, the great work that they know how to do, helping them do more of it, tap into their genius, and create a lifestyle around their expertise that they love.
How amazing is that? So you've really worked with so many leaders and consultants over the years. When you zoom out to what the problems are, you actually are obsessed with solving in the when you really zoom out into what the problems are that you're really obsessed in solving in the consulting world that most consultants don't even see yet. Like you just mentioned, when you started, there were things that consultants were not seeing. What is it that you still see that people don't see yet?
Yeah, a few things. One is because I think sometimes people think, oh, I've got a social media problem, or I've got, these things that are in their face all the time. But what's really going on is a few things. One is that they don't have necessarily a real clear point of view on what they want to talk about. So they have a few different ideas, but that point of view is not clean and tight in a message to take that to market. And that doesn't differentiate them enough. And it doesn't mean they have to be so uniquely different that people don't understand what they do. It means that you've got to get the uniqueness and the relevance balanced so that we can see the uniqueness that you've got. So the first one is, and quite often that's a big part of the person's personality, like operating under their personal brand. So that's the first one. The second one is there's a focus on, particularly nowadays, on I've just got to do content and more content, and I've just got to get content. And so what they're not realizing is the craftsmanship of thought leadership that is missing in terms of what do they actually think, as opposed to going, oh, I've got to get this out and I've got to do social media content. Is the question, I'm like, what's the craftsmanship? What is it that they really know and have their expertise, and how they articulate that so that they've got a body of work that can be leveraged for their growth? So I say I come in like an accountant. If Peter Cook was here, he would say the same thing, who created a lot of the work in this space. He says I come in, an accountant will come in looking for a balance sheet and a profit and loss, whereas I come in and I'm looking for assets, what can be leveraged, what can be used to build the practice so that we can get the growth. And then the third thing that is often holding them back is a lack of a business model. So they don't actually have a framework to necessarily grow the business. So they might have been it's actually a practice, like you said in the introduction, is that they think that they're trying to build a business, which is a very different business model to running a practice, and really keeping it tight, 1 to 2 staff, really being able to charge at a thought leader day rate and a world-class thought leader day rate. It's a model that most have not seen before. And so they see it, so that's what I'm trying to do. And I was the same when I started. So, those 3 things are the things that I find really are holding people back when they're trying to build their practice. Yeah.
Yeah, you also talk about, and you've written about this, the long game of positioning. So you've just been talking about personal branding, and you can have a personal brand, and some people just think that might sometimes be about all the colors, they match, they la. We'll get deeper into what personal branding actually mean. But you write and speak about the long game of positioning, something you build incrementally, you refine over the time and fiercely protect. Yeah. Can you share a time where you didn't protect your positioning? And I know you've leaned into this a little bit, or you just let it blur a little, and what happened and what was it costing you?
I reckon the time that I did that was when I had one of the things that happens, I think, sometimes for us as women, and I was guilty of this early on, is that we often want to collaborate with other people, and collaboration's a great thing, but sometimes it's a little bit early in someone's practice. And so, as you're trying to build your brand and trying to build the thought leadership and the models and the frameworks and the books, sometimes we can go into a little bit of self-doubt and go, oh, maybe it's faster if I can partner with someone. And so one of the mistakes that I made was that I partnered with a collaborator too early in my practice. And as a result of that, it was in some corporate work that we were delivering. It was around communications and sales type stuff. And I was trying to really help her on her journey. Like, I'd already written a lot of books and things like that. So I was going, but she's really good. I'll try and help her on the journey. The problem that I hit was that she really needed to step into her own light and create her own work. So what I did was I was trying to rescue her in her growth, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just let her have her space to build her work, and then we partner on equal ground, like an equal footing. So and that slowed me down a lot. It just took a lot of attention, time, effort. And also, there's just the emotional stress of all that, where we had a number of disagreements on the IP and different things. And so, and then you kind of, those sorts of things affect you, like, oh, I don't know, maybe I'm no good at this, and maybe I shouldn't keep going, and is it all too hard? And, so what I learned from that, and that I really encourage other people to do, particularly women, when they're often collaborating a little early, as I go, it's okay. You're allowed to have the spotlight. You're allowed to invest and have that focus on building your practice and make it sustainable first. And partner with people who have done that as well. You don't have, because often we end up carrying people, which is what I did, and I've seen it multiple times with others. And it's okay for you to succeed and have your own space. That opportunities will come, but you don't have to carry people.
Right. That is important. But why do you think women do it more often?
It's imposter syndrome. So I find, is that because they go, oh, that's what's at the heart of it. They won't say that. They will say, oh, but I really like working with this person, and, we get along really well. And, they think it will make it faster and quicker, but it actually slows everything down, because what happens is there's too much gray area. And so they kind of go, well, let's go run an event or this program. But when the positioning gets lost in the client's mind, because the client's going, okay, so if you're the experts in leadership, in high performance or whatever, so you both are, so who's looking after me? Who's on the database? So unless these two people have built a company together and those assets are owned together, that's one thing. But when they're not owned and partnering together, they do think it will go faster, things will progress quicker, but it actually puts everything in quicksand, because no one owns the database, or who's going to own it. There's arguments over that. Who owns the IP? Who owns the client? And when there's all this, but when both businesses are built and they're on equal footing, and all that's done, books, databases, all those things are all built, it's very clear who's taking the lead. And as in who owns what assets, that's all very clean. And there's no need to go and build a company. You can just work on a specific project together, and that's enough. It's much cleaner, and everyone's in a space of confidence in their own IP. They've got their own footing. So collaboration is great. But I just say, just do it a bit earlier when everyone's on equal footing, and it's much clearer. It's not muddy. And in the end, it's not messy for the client. The client is the most important, thing to deliver. And you're still friends at the end of it. There's often too many friendships lost too early over it.
Right. Do you see a lot of collaboration? Do you see, and when people are collaborating, is it project work? Is it really just as a business? We are here, you complement what I do, so we come together. What is sort of the collaboration that you see?
Yeah, like an example might be I did a great collaboration with Donna McGeorge. So Donna McGeorge has written the book Red Brick Thinking. Actually, I've got it here. I've been doing so her book is Wiley book. It's out in the bookstores at the moment. And Donna's a productivity expert. And so Donna did a fantastic program with one of her clients. And she said, you know what, I'm going to run this program for this client. It was a 6-month program. And Donna said, I'm not an expert in all these things, but I want Jane to come in and talk about personal brand. I want this person to come in and talk about networking. I want this person to come in and talk about high performance. So what she did was, it was her client. So what she did was, when I came in to deliver, I operated under, it was her client. Donna just paid me for delivering for the day. My job was just to deliver to the client. So that's where it's Donna's client. She charges the client. Donna pays me for me to deliver that aspect of it, but it's Donna's project, and we get to collaborate. So the key is knowing who's taking the lead, who's the person who owns the project itself, and there's plenty of opportunity to collaborate. So I've done that a lot with quite a few, and Donna's been a client for many years. But we've also buddied up as mates and delivered together as well. So there's lots of different ways you can do it. I've also partnered with Dr. Richard Heismans, who's in Melbourne, and we partnered on a project for a university in Melbourne to help them to use LinkedIn to access funding. And they generated around $400,000 in funding. And I was the LinkedIn expert. Richard was the expert in research translation. But it was Richard's client. So his job is to look after the client. It's their database. But he paid me my fees to come in and deliver. And then we partnered together. So the key is, sometimes there's risk involved, what you don't always know what you're dealing with. But as long as I think when it's clean and fair like that, then it all works.
Lovely. And it's good when there's clarity and people can really work together, then it's amazing. Other than that, then you build the practice or you build the business, as you say, being very clear on which one is it that you're driving. So you help people move from being seen as just consultant to being seen as genuine thought leader. And there's a huge difference between consulting and thought leadership. What is the one belief that the people you work with need to retire to make that shift? To know one new belief that they need to adopt. So one thing they need to retire, one thing they need to adopt when you're working with clients.
Yeah. The big thing to adopt, I'll go there first, is a mindset of being known. So you've got a subject matter expert, someone who's an expert versus a thought leader. An expert knows something. A thought leader is more known for knowing something. So the question is if I went out to find out, okay, who's an expert in belonging, I'm going, okay, so if I want to know, or who's an expert in leadership or high performance, that I can find, do people know who this person is? Like, have they got people following them? Have they got a social media presence? Have they written a book? So are they known? Is the key question, is known. So because if I'm a meeting planner or conference organizer, I want the thought leader. I need to know that person has some sort of not just visibility, but people know who that person is. Whereas someone who's an expert or a thought leader, they often won't be known. So they'll have all the wisdom, all the knowledge, which is great. But then we've got to go, okay, so are you top of mind if somebody said, we need an expert in high performance? Does your name turn up on that list? So the key question is known. So that's what they need to adopt. In terms of the thing that they need to let go of, the thing they need to let go of, I would say, is just the fear. It's a fear of, I don't want to be that person. I can't stand people who go, look at me, like, I'm such a rock star and pay attention to me, and and I think there's that perception that people think, they say, look, I really want to be a thought leader, but I don't want to be one of those annoying people that puts their photos up of everything that they ate for breakfast and, all those things. So there's a fear of being annoying. And if they can remove that fear, and it just comes with, there's a few things to do that. Belonging to a community is obviously a big part of it because it helps build the confidence. But if they can let go of the fear and come in the spirit of service, and it's about helping people. I'm not a center of attention kind of person. It would be great if I didn't have to worry about that, but that doesn't help anybody. So you have to actually let go of your ego a little bit and go, actually, I'm here in service. I'm here to help people. The only way I can do that is if I'm known.
Yeah, I know when I was starting to set this up and my coach was pushing me to do a lot on social media, and I'm like, no. It's not just the way I roll. I don't want it. And I'll never forget, he said to me, Annastacia, just get off your ego. It's nothing to do with you. It's about the service and the people you're serving. And it's amazing when you look at it that way. And even when you go into a sales avenue, you're just like, this is not about selling, it's just about service. Makes that switch is amazing what it does to our brains and to you as a person. But for thought leaders, I can see, but for consultants who are really do the work and behind the scene, I'm just coming to work with you, tell you where I can see how they can struggle with letting that fear of I'm everything. But also here, particularly in Australia, then there's the fear, and then we deal with the tall puppy syndrome. And I'm just wondering whether this is something you've come across, and if you've personally have to deal with it, with that tall puppy syndrome, and how you had to deal with it. Because as women, yet you're dealing with all the things that comes along with being a woman and all the fears and everything, that just by the way we are wired. And then here is a culture of tall puppy syndrome. How do we make it?
Oh, well, Annastacia, I'll tell you a story. I had somebody when I had one, and it was a colleague, actually, another speaker presenter, who accidentally sent me a message that was to be sent to someone else. And they were sending it to that person about me. And they were saying, who the hell does she think she is? Look at what she's doing. She's saying this, look at all the stuff she's writing. And I was like, I read it, I was confused at first. I went, oh, hang on. This is about me, but she's accidentally sent it to me. She was sending it to somebody else. And so that was the first time I realized that, because up until then people reply to your blogs and things like that and comments, but I hadn't had a colleague do it. And I thought it was the first time I'd had that experience, and I went, wow, okay, lucky I'm here in the spirit of service, because I actually my goal is not to be the center of attention. My goal here is to really help people. So that was I've had that happen from that person. And I had another one who also told me that I couldn't do licensing. I've had, and because it wasn't, it hadn't been done through a university or evidence-based research or those kinds of things. I had actually brought in a doctor of data to help me build those things. But, and sometimes it surprises you. It's people, not even people who, who are consuming content. They're actually pretty encouraging. But it surprised me that other people in the industry sometimes have a go at you. So, but regardless of what happens, whether you don't do this type of work, whether you do a job, there's always going to be someone that will be, have something to say. So I've just learnt, you notice it, but I'm just so grateful to have the choice and the freedom to work with the clients I work with, and to really make the difference. So, those things that happen every now and again. The tall poppy is alive and well. But I think you've just got to stay focused on your purpose, why you're here, doing the work you love, and you go, you know what, I'm not for everybody, and that's okay, because you know what, if somebody else wants to work with someone else who does personal branding, or they like how somebody else coaches consultants, I go, that's great. I'm not for you. Awesome.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of other people. But that's the beauty of this world, is that personal brand, as you said, the irony is personal branding is not even about you. But secondly, that this is why this work is, it reminds me why this work is so important, because there are versions, and why our personal brand is so important, because based on the area of expertise that you have, there are plenty of people going, we need to do belonging work, but I really like how Annastacia does it. I love how she does it with our team. I love how we do that we've got this aged care facility that we're trying to get back and become more compliant. Just get Annastacia, because you know what? There's other people who don't like my version of how I do things. And that's the beauty of, we go, well, there's plenty of choice and you can work with whoever you like. But there's someone who wants to work with you. There's someone who resonates and says, I love how Annastacia operates. I just feel like she gets me. And that human connection, it takes a lot of guts and a lot of courage to put yourself out there. I think if you can do that, then there's plenty of work for everybody.
Yeah, great. But let's go back to personal branding. What actually does personal branding mean? Because some people will be like, oh, that is not on brand because it doesn't have the color. Is it the color? Is it the tone? What is personal branding?
Yeah, there's so many different ways to explain it. But I love, there's a few, I quite like Jeff Bezos's explanation where he says, it's what people say about you when you're not in the room. So when someone says, do you know someone who does this? Does your name come up? Or how do they describe you? So I always say personal branding is like a diamond. There's so many facets to it. The key thing is, but we've got to obsess about the category. So as in leadership, high performance, team building, transformation, whatever that might be. So first of all, I'm looking for the category. Second thing I'm looking for is the message. So what is it that you're known for? So what is it that you take to market? And then the third thing is your essence and your energy. And then they're the things that really make you unique. They're the three big dimensions that I look for. And if you can get those things right, you'll typically have, coming back to Bezos's quote, when people say who you are when you're not in the room, that phrasing and what people say will generally be right.
So what differentiates that to positioning?
Positioning is more about the category and the message. So whereas it doesn't really define the essence of who you are. So that's part of the brand. But the positioning is, imagine you've got like the pigeonholes of a pigeon box, the pigeonhole boxes, and you've got a pigeonhole that says high performance. You've got a pigeonhole that's expensive. This pigeonhole says they're cheap. This pigeonhole says maybe you're location based. They might think, oh, you only work with people in Brisbane, so you're in the Brisbane pigeonhole. So the positioning is about, where am I in the customer's mind? And is that positioning aligned with where I want them to be? So, for example, when I first started, most people thought that I only worked with clients in Brisbane. But I really needed to get that repositioning happen so that people knew that I could work anywhere in the world. So I had to change that by updating social posts and making sure I was turning up in keywords for people when they're searching for people for personal branding in Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne, Adelaide, and keep telling the story that, oh, I'm on my way to Sydney today. Here's my coffee in Melbourne today. So the positioning can work against you if it's the wrong positioning. If someone in Melbourne needs personal branding, oh no, Jane's in Brisbane. We just want someone local. And it's like, hang on, hang on, I can help. So positioning is, where are you in the customer's mind? And if we're not in that pigeonhole or that category of where the customer are, in terms of the problem we can solve, the category, the message, it could be location, then we've got a bit of work to do to reposition where the market understands what you do and how you can help.
when you've worked again with a lot of consultants and leaders, what are some early warning signs that a consultant's business is growing in ways that their life can't sustain it?
That's a good question. One would be, there's two things. One could be that the revenue growth is that the practice is moving so fast and they're struggling to keep up. So it could be that they've got a really popular topic. So let's say, for example, I had someone last year who was an AI expert, still an AI expert, and their practice grew very quickly. So what they needed to make sure was that that it could be sustained in the long term. The problem with something like that in that category is the topic of AI is not going to be around forever. So AI will be around, but going from 0 to a 7-figure business in 12 months from one topic and a keynote, that's not sustainable. So we have to diversify the business model and those sorts of things for the following year. So that's one where perhaps the business is growing so fast and they're trying to keep up and make sure that the revenue streams can be diversified afterwards. The other thing that could be happening is that they are struggling with being able to get the growth, and so they're burning out. So they might be trying to do a lot of content. They haven't had any new programs or new launches. They haven't evolved their message and they're spinning their wheels. And so as a result, they're burning out. So they're the two things that typically come up from a sustainability problem. So one is if their practice is growing extremely fast, then we've got to make sure we've got good systems and the team and good recruitment strategy and diversification strategy. If they're struggling because they're doing so much and nothing's happening, I've got someone like this at the moment actually that's just come on board, is that they need a business model and a framework to work with so they can see, actually, here's what the market understands. I've got to take these programs to market. How am I going to make sure I'm differentiated, the positioning, the category, the ideal clients? So because things change and they're possibly doing the same thing that they've been doing and nothing's happening. They just think working harder will make it change, and it's not.
My coach actually will say, if you don't have 100 people that you can sell your program to for $1,000 and you don't have a business, you just have really a hobby, he says.
Yes, it's true. That's very true. I like that.
But then sometimes because particularly again, and today we're talking a lot about women, we're naturals. And you start a baby from scratch. This is your baby. This is your program. This is what you're taking to the world. It's really hard to let go, really hard to see. But it's good sometimes to pivot, and you can still, because I think this is when I was starting in the space, it's but you have to stick to the one thing. And I think it's a really bad training, because we grow and you have to really learn to pivot and to also grow and change as the market is changing. Because if you're just going to remain stagnant, the same program you are running, as you said, at the same program you're running now, people have evolved. We're in the world of AI. What is it that you're doing now to, get up to the market? I think it's important for consultants who are listening to us, or even thought leaders, to know that it's okay to grow and it's okay to relaunch again.
Yes.
Until, you find your space. And if you find your space, you have to grow from it. It's not that you stay stagnant. Yes, a lot of our Human Edge listeners are balancing family, health, and mission-driven consulting practices. From your own vintage point, what's your non-negotiable design principle for building a practice that can scale and keep you human? Because I think, and you did allude to it, about work hard, which is a model we've been taught for a long time, and nobody's going to succeed by being lazy. No. But again, working hard is not always the solution.
Yes, you need a return on hard work. So I would say the big thing is, your question around what's the non-negotiable? The non-negotiable is amplification of you. So in other words, like a good example at the moment is, and it's always been the case, is video. But like I've been working with a couple of people to help them because they've tried to get the team to help them, say, with their socials, and they're losing brand voice, and there's a whole lot of problems going on. And I go, just make the most important thing the most important thing. The most important thing is you. You are what makes it different. You are what makes it unique. People buy into you. They feel understood. Your tone of voice. So, so for a couple of people that have had this issue, I've gone, just focus on video. Just get every day, do your video, do the newsletter in video, because people connect to that humanness of who you are. I think that the thing that I'm seeing at the moment is this overstretch over into AI. And great, I can do, these AI videos, and I can use AI for the content, and I can, and it's about this speed and capacity. But actually, I go, the three things for you to focus on are the thinking. So think first, you need to work with your clients, and you need to deliver your programs. So for those three things, particularly the thinking, is that they've got to think first, stop outsourcing, stop focusing on AI, come back to you are the thought leader. This is a practice model, not a business model. So come back to being the craftsperson, craftswoman, craftsman, craftsperson. Come back to your craft. We've got back over, we're just getting too far over into, oh, great, I'll just use AI to do this, this, this. And then I go, great, can you speak at a conference tomorrow on that topic? And they go, oh, no, I can't remember what I did. So we've got to, they've got to really, that's a big one at the moment, is just going, do you know your stuff? You've probably seen the research from MIT around people with the lack of retention and recall on the IP.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the big one, that's the one I'm looking for is, so can you explain it to me? Can you repeat it tomorrow? And can you deliver it at a conference tomorrow?
And boy, are we losing that very, very, very fast, being able to remember, because all we do is ask chat what. And it's, I'm all for AI. Like, I think it's coming to revolutionize things. But as you said, the thought process has to be your own thought process. You have to be able to talk about your own ideas and where you stand. What's your standpoint? And then AI helps you to refine it, etc. And I think for me, particularly with the work that I do in belonging, is to know that it doesn't matter how much artificial intelligence is great. As humans, we are created for connection. And so there's a humanness that has to remain regardless.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think there'll be an amplification of that humanness. And even the question for us is, how do you continue to amplify your humanness? What is the things that make you come alive? What are the things that, inspire you, cultivate your creativity? Because I think that's going to be the next question for us as thought leaders, because that's all your uniqueness and essence that AI can't do. So, what is it? And I think we're going to have to really tap into what inspires us, what brings us alive. Is it travel? Is it, I don't know, sewing? Is it gardening? Is it pets? Is it animals? Is it travel? Is it like, I don't know, fishing? Like, what are the things that, family, whatever it is I think for us, we'll be more conscious and aware of what gives us our spark.
Yeah. Oh, that's a good one. What gives you your spark? Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. So you've created tools like the Exceptional Consultant Practice Scorecard to give people a really honest mirror on their business. When people complete that scorecard, what blind spot shows up again and again that genuinely surprises you?
It surprises me. The one that shows up the most is more often than not sales and marketing, because I often think, there's the sales and marketing problem. But the real one is the strategy and the business model. They just, the strategy is often the one that is low sales and marketing. The other things are often higher, like they're often leadership experts. So leadership comes up quite high, but it's a different context in running a practice because, you're often not running a big team. You've only got one or two people at the most. So yeah, the strategy is the one that, is when people are feeling lost and they don't know, what I've got to do next. But that sales and marketing does come up, and it's just because we're hitting that ceiling. They've got as far as they can because they're great at what they do. They're so good at their area of expertise. And then unfortunately, to play more in that expertise, these are all the things we have to be able to do that.
Yeah, and I really love that, Jen, you've built something that is really forcing us to stop guessing and really actually look at the reality of our own businesses. And for those who are listening, if you're hearing this and thinking, I don't actually know how sustainable my current practice is, Jen's exceptional consultants practice scorecard is really a powerful place to start, which I've just done in the last 48 hours. So in under 5 minutes, you answer 24 simple questions and you receive a personalized report that highlights where your practice is strong, where it is vulnerable, the next steps that you can take to strengthen it. And obviously, if you really need them to connect with Jen, you will be guided in where you connect. So we will pop that link in the show notes. So you can take it you can look after it after the episode and really just delve into it. I challenge you to do it because some of the questions you actually don't think about it. And I'm a strategist and I was like, whoa, okay. So I encourage, if you're listening to us, you're a consultant, you're a coach, you're a thought reader, please look at the show notes and look at that scorecard and complete it. So let's talk about the commercial engine of consulting practice for a moment. You emphasize that your work is actually commercial, pipeline, pricing, and offers for 6 to 7 figure practices. What are some of the most common ways you see consultants unintentionally undercutting their own pricing power?
A few things. One is in terms of forgetting the value that they bring to the client. So they'll be a little bit caught up sometimes in, well, I can't really charge more than that, and this is what I normally charge these people, and this is my normal day rate, or I've come out of these contracting kind of pricing. This is what I was earning when I was in a job. And it's all about me. And quite often what I have to do is help them get back over and focused on what the client's problem is and having a look at working out, well, what is this problem costing the client? So how do you calculate that? What level of pain is this client in? Because, if this client's got $1 million problem on their hands and you're charging, $500 for the day, that's, that's not really going to, it's not that it's not going to solve the problem, but it's also not realizing that actually, because I'm going, but I haven't earned $500 a day before, or that's, there's a whole lot of self-worth and all these things that come in. But we've really got to just get focused on how big is this problem for this client? How important is this problem to solve for this person? And then how am I going to make sure, first of all, that I can solve it? And then secondly, and also understand that whilst the client might be asking for something, they may say, we've got this problem, could you do a 1-day workshop on this thing? But as a thought leader, our job is to understand that problem. So helping the client to see, you know what, I can do a 1-day workshop, sure, but that's not going to solve your problem. When we look at how much this is costing you, here are the people involved, here's how long this has gone on for, what's the impact if nothing changes. I really need to, and we're not trying to talk people into things they don't need. We're just there to really solve the problem. So I think sometimes that I see is that people will be too focused on just doing what the client is asking, as opposed to, you've got to be the leader, you're the thought leader. So our job is to lead the conversation and go, actually, here's the real problem you've got, because you might think you've got this problem, but you've actually got this problem. And here's how long that's going to take me to fix that. So that's the first thing. And then the second thing is working out how to price it so that, and that's aligned with their positioning in the market, the type of programs that they have, the books they've written, the body of work that they have, all those things then start to determine the day rate, and is it worth actually doing that work? And if not, sometimes it's better to refer it to someone else.
So pricing has some worthiness to it, because sometimes some people do hear the price and they're like, whoa, I can't charge that much because of this, because of that. How do you then help the consultant or the thought leaders to reconcile with that? Because that's there's a deeper issue here going on.
Yeah. Well, we think it's a deeper issue, but it's just economics, supply and demand. So, because if you're busy delivering every day, and that's not sustainable. So we go, if you're delivering every day and you're delivering, at a relatively low rate, that's simple supply and demand is telling us that you're too busy and the pricing is too low, so that you're going to keel over. That's not going to work. So we go, okay, so it's time to increase the price. And sometimes we think that demand will go down, and we go, yeah, but quite often, sometimes the demand will continue to increase because we've now attracting the right clients. So, so what I'm looking for is, where is the revenue right now in terms of growth? Because if someone has $1 million practice, then, and they're already delivering X amount of days, so they really shouldn't be delivering any more than, 2 days a week if you've got $1 million practice. If they've got the demand for another 20 days a year, it's time to put the pricing up. So we just, and that doesn't have to be big jumps. The thing that people struggle with are big jumps. So we might say, well, actually it's actually keeping the muscle going of practice of increasing the day rate, watching the demand. It's actually knowing when to move it. So it might be, actually, we're going to just increase it. Might be, if we increase by $1,000 for the day, or $2,000 for the program, or whatever, is we've got to make sure that the practice is sustainable. And for those that are, if they're just moving at an increment, we go, okay, so what happens then? Is the demand coming down? Is it going up? But along with that, are the sales and marketing activity supporting that growth so that we can keep that growing? So yeah, when you're working in a personal branded business, there's a whole lot of identity that is tied to that day rate, for sure. But it does depend. I find it depends where they are in their growth and how many days of delivery they're already doing.
Yeah, I hear that it's some work that sometimes even when I'm in coaching, I'm like, yeah. From what I can hear, it's really something to do with worthiness, and people can't afford it and things. And I actually had to practice this. For me, it's more from a sales perspective. I'm like, I don't want to go in there and start. And this just the beginning of this month, at the end of the quarter, I have a program coaching program that runs 3 monthly. And I was finishing the 3 months, and I was like, okay, I haven't even started to have the conversation of renewal stuff. And the 10 women, all of them without fail, all of them were like, okay, we are renewing. And I surprised myself, because it was really in the lead up conversation where I wasn't selling, and I wasn't actually I hadn't started to talk to them about the program, but we were talking about coming to the end of the program, and they're like, up. So, and I just want to encourage somebody who's there, who's feeling like, sometimes you'll be surprised. You'll go up your price even with a few $1,000s, and people, they won't even flinch, because it's the service, it's the problem you're solving, it's what you're delivering. So it's important for a consultant who's listening to us to really pay attention. Oh my goodness, Jen, I had a few more questions, and I can see time is really running. I'll ask you one more, and then we'll head to closing. Yeah. Can you take us into a moment where you thought, it's insane. Can you please take us to a moment where you thought, I don't know if this practice, this path, this is actually going to work? What was happening at that time, and what did you do in the days immediately after that moment? A moment of self-doubt. Is it going to work? Is this worth it? What did you do?
Yeah. So it's happened more than once. So, you know, but the big one is COVID, obvious. Like COVID was when everything went overnight. You know, all the speaking gigs were gone. That all went straight away. And that's when I went, okay, like, I don't know. I'm obviously going to have to go. And I didn't care what I did. I was like, I just hit the papers. I was saying to my husband, all right, who are the businesses that are still open? I will go to Coles and Woolworths and I will pack shelves, like whatever I have to do. And, you know, but I realized actually I had all these clients who were friends and they had lost all their gigs as well. So they had no money. And I just went, okay, you know what I'm going to do? And my husband was wonderful. He just said, you can't give up. You can't, like, just hang in there. And so I put on an event. I thought what I've got to do is I'll just come in the spirit of service. And I put on an online event. And I did that for 2 days. And I said, any thought leader, consultant, advisor, anyone, I said, guess what? We're not going to sit and watch Netflix for the next, because we went into lockdown. And I went, okay, yeah. We're not going to sit and watch Netflix. We're going to do some work. Who wants to write a book? Who wants to do some thought leadership? Who wants to do some content? So I just put this free event on. I thought, I've got to do something. I'll just do that. And you know what? If no one turns up, I will go and I'll close everything down. I'll go and get a job, whatever. I had 500 people register for that event. And so all the people who registered, I did that for free for those 2 days. I had 11,500 questions in the Facebook group for 2 days. And I had my team helping me. They were like, this is crazy. Like, so it was like, we had over just over $50 million worth of IP created in those 2 days. So I took that as a sign that I can't give up. I've got to keep going. You know, this is my life's work. This is what I've got to do. I've just got to find a way to make this work. And so fortunately out of that, I just said, look, I don't know who needs help and who does, but if you can afford, you know, to pay me, I'll take what you can pay me. For some people, they couldn't and they needed help. So I just did a mix of whatever I could for 2 years. I coached a lot of people for free for 2 years. And then when people got back on their feet and we started to have lockdowns settle down a bit, all those clients became paying clients and we continued on. So I think that was definitely the moment I thought it was all over. I thought it was gone. But that was when I just went, okay, what can I do if this is a sign? And that was the sign to keep going.
Yeah, and that was all of us during COVID.
Yeah.
So Jen, when you strip away the titles, the certified speaking professional, the authorship, the consulting coach, and when you think about Jen as the person, what do you see as your own human edge, and how do you protect that in the middle of everything that you're building?
What a great question. You have great questions, Annastacia. You know, I think there's a really great tool that Jonathan Fields created, which is a tool called the Spark Type. And my good friend Mark Trulson has just taken it over. He's Australian, but has taken it over from Jonathan Fields. And I learned out of that a while ago, out of that tool, that I'm a creator. And if you told me years ago that I was going to see myself as a creator and someone who's creative, I was like, I would have thought, I just didn't get that gene. Like, I'm so practical and organized and structured. Like, I don't think that's me. The thing I've learned out of becoming a thought leader is I'm more creative than I give myself credit for. And that and out of that Spark Type, it validated for me that I'm a maker. I create stuff. And so I build platforms, I build systems. I'm a builder. And I love making sense of what people struggle with and build it into systems and tools and resources and videos and all those things that they can use. And that was something I never thought I had. I thought I was just a trainer, just a coach. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I never saw myself as a creator. And that's been the big shift for me from this work.
Amazing, amazing. And that will be a really good place to stop. Jen, thank you so much for a rich, honest, and practical conversation. What really stood out for me is this idea that exceptional consulting practice just doesn't happen by accident. It is a compound effect of being really clear on your positioning, courageous decision, and a business model that actually supports the human being who has to run it. For those who are listening to us, if you found yourself nodding along or part of this conversation felt uncomfortable, close to home, this is your invitation to actually really pause and really look at the sustainability of your practice. Jen has created a powerful tool called the Exceptional Consulting Practice Scorecard. In under 5 minutes, you answer 24 questions and you receive a personalized report that highlights where your practice is strong, where it is vulnerable, and the specific next step so you can take it to strengthen it. It is a real honest mirror that you can use to save years of guessing and creating. And you can find that link with the show note of this episode. Jen, thank you really so much for your time. If somebody takes whatever, they obviously have contact to you, but if somebody else is listening to us and is thinking, I'm a consultant, I'm a coach, I'm an advisor, I need to grow my business, I need a coach, where do they find you? How do they connect?
Oh, thanks, Annastacia. Yeah, they can just jump on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. They can just message me. I personally reply to everything. I can jump on the website. So it's jane-anderson.com.au.
Amazing. So, Jen, one thought that you're going to wrap us up with. What's the last thought of all this episode and why people should listen to us?
Oh, I think we all, think maybe if you're listening to this and you're going, I'd love to be able to do, imagine having your own podcast, imagine writing a book, imagine you've got something to say, I think sometimes people don't always think that they've got something to contribute to the conversation or everything's been thought of. They're all the cool people that think of those things and do those things. And, I don't know if I've got that in me. But, no matter if you know how to do something, you've spent years at work and you have something to contribute, you have something inside you that others want to learn, and they are going, regardless of, what your expertise is. And, I came across a lady on the weekend who's an expert at teaching kids how to fish. She goes to schools and teaches kids fishing. I just think that's bloody fantastic. So, we all have something to contribute to this world and something that we can all teach someone. And you've got more in you than you think, and go out and do it. If it's something that you want to do, there's plenty of room for everybody.
Lovely. Thank you. A great place to stop. Thank you. Oh, thank you so much. I do appreciate your time. Amazing, amazing.